Hello and welcome to this first tutorial in this series of creating a live chat system. Alright, so as mentioned in a previous video, we are going to be looking at the following technologies. That's PHP, JavaScript, AJAX, JSON, CSS, HTML, and MySQL. So it's going to take some knowledge from all these in order to create the system we are creating right now. So I'm going to assume that you are complete beginners, and I will put links in the description to videos that go into detail on matters that I think you should learn more. But in the interest of keeping these series short, I will try as much as possible not to repeat what I've already done in other videos. But however, I will assume that you are a beginner, so I'll try and explain everything as much as possible. All right, so this is the view that we're going to try and create. So in order to do this, we can create using any text editor, Notepad included. So as long as you have Notepad and you have your favorite browser, you are ready to begin coding. However, in my case, as usual, I will be using Sublime Text, which is a much better text editor because it has auto completion and the like. All right, so if you have your oh, and by the way, you also need to have XAMPP installed on your system. So if you don't know how to install XAMPP, I will leave a link in the description to a video where you can do that. So once your XAMPP is installed, open it and make sure that Apache and MySQL are running. You start both those services from here. So once you start that, we are ready to go. And the first thing we are going to do is go to our Drive C folder. So in Drive C, XAMPP, or whatever it is that you actually installed XAMPP, we're going to go into the htdocs folder, and then in there, I'm going to create a MyChat folder. So the folder is called MyChat. And in there, I have all these files in here. So these are simply icons or PNG images and a few images of people, so we can use for our profile images. So you can use any images in replacement of this. However, I'll have a link in the description to a folder that contains all these files in there. All right, so to begin, in our very folder here, let's organize things a little bit better. So to start with, we are going to create a new folder. So I want a new folder in here called UI. So this folder is going to have all the visual user interfaces that we need. And then inside here, I'm going to create another folder called icons. And then I'm going to create another folder called fonts. Okay, there we go. All right, so up here now, let's go back a little bit, and then I'm going to cut all the fonts. For example, I'll start with the fonts. I'll go in here, open fonts, and paste them here. Now the fonts I'm using, one of them is Summer Vibes. They will be in the folder, and there's Open Sans. So this is, you can use any fonts that you want, okay? So you can Google these are Google fonts, so you can find them on Google. Open Sans, the regular, and Summer Vibes, regular. All right, so then we're going to cut the rest of these icons. I will cut these icons, and I'm going to UI again. And then in there, I'm going to go to icons and paste. Very good. And then the rest of it now, I'm going to, right here, I'm going to have a folder called images. All right, so these folders, you can organize them in any way that you want, but maybe for the images of the interface, we are going to drop the folder in UI as well, and then cut everything from here and go into images and paste the images there. All right, very good. Now at the top here, we are only left with this image. Now this image is not required. This is the image that I'm actually viewing here to see a sample of what we are going to do. So let's study this image a little bit more. So if you look closely here, we have a few segments here. So there's a segment on the left hand side here which goes all the way to the bottom. So that's why we are designating this one as a segment. It goes all the way to the bottom. And then there's another one on the right hand side here which goes all the way to the bottom. And then inside this one there are three segments. There's a header, and then there's one on the left, and then there's another one on the right. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sections on this page. So we have to try and emulate that with our divs and using a property called flex. Okay, so let's fire up our favorite text editor, and I'm going to create a new file in here. And before I go any further, what I will do is go to the View tab and show my sidebar. That way I can drag and drop a folder in there. So what I will do is go to my chat, the whole folder, I will drag the folder and drop it in the sidebar. Very good. So now I can go to a folder. Let me close this file. Now I can go to a folder, right click and say new file. And then this one will be obviously the index.php page. And I'm going to hit save and click save right there. Right. So let's put, now this file, I've written index.php. However, you can make it index.html because we are not going to have any PHP, at least we'll try not to have any PHP in this file. So it's okay to write it .html, but I will leave it as .php for now. All right, so to begin with, I will type my HTML tags here, and Sublime Text finishes everything up for me. So you can copy this if you have a different text editor. All right, so in our title, we're going to say my chat because this is our chat system that we have. And that's it for now. So to begin with, let me drag and drop this item into my browser. So let me try and go here to a new and say localhost, and I'm going to say my chat, and then I'm going to say index.php. All right, so of course we have a blank page. Now let's try and copy what we have here. So first of all, what I will want is to have down at the body here, I'm going to have a div. So let's create a div there, like so. So this div is the wrapper. So I'm going to have an ID of wrapper because it wraps everything inside it. All right. And then inside that div now, this is when we have, so the wrapper is the whole div here. As you can see, we are not using the whole body of the document. So there is an ultimate div on the outer side. So that's the wrapper. And then we're going to have this left div. So we're going to create a div here, and I'm going to give it an ID of left panel underscore panel, like so. Oh, before I do that, I can duplicate it like so. So left panel, and then I will have another one called right panel. Okay, that's it. So those are the two on the outer side. So let me do this because I want to add more divs inside them. So as you can see, this is the left panel, and this whole thing here is the right panel. So inside here, inside the right panel, I want to have a header. So it's not in the left panel, but in the right panel. I will make another div, and I'll give it an ID of header. Okay, pretty good. Now inside header itself, I will have another div. Now this div, I'll give it an ID of container, like so. Let's save that. So you see inside here there's header, but then under header I have the container, which is this one that contains the two main divs that contain our information. So let me add those divs down there. So these divs will be inside the container. So I'm going to have one div here, and I'll give this one an ID of inner left panel. So these names are just random, so you can add any names that you wish. And then there's inner right panel. All right, so I think when we reach that point, everything is good. So what I will do now, since even if I refresh my page, you will not see anything, let me give these some random colors. Okay, so now let me go to just above the body tag, and I want to add some styles. So I'm going to say style like this. Okay, so style. Now let's start styling some stuff. So first of all, let's start with the wrapper. So pound wrapper like so. Okay, and then this one I want to give it a maximum width. I don't want it to go beyond let's say 800 pixels. Okay, I don't want it to be bigger than that. And then I want to give it a minimum height so that we can at least see something. So I'll give it a minimum height of maybe 500 pixels. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we still won't see anything so far, so unless I give it a background color, which is unnecessary in this case because I have these other ones. So I'm going to go with the left panel now, left underscore panel like so. And then this one, what I will do is all right, the wrapper, there's one more I should add, which is display flex. So flex will allow me to stretch, because normally what happens is these divs one div will fill up the width of the website like this, and then the next div will be underneath that div. Now if I use the display of flex on the container that contains those two divs, they're going to be side by side, just like this one on this side, one on the other side. So let's see that in action. Let me remove the display flex first. So what I will do now is I'm just going to add a minimum height on this one of 400 pixels. Okay, and then I'm going to add a background color just so we can see it of red. We will change these colors later. So let me duplicate this part and go to right panel, and then background color green. So this is just random colors just so we can see something, and I will refresh. So you see, this is what you get from the beginning. So there's one div at the top and there's another div below. However, if the div containing both of these, I give it a display of flex, what will happen is this. Oops. So now we end up not seeing anything because the containers contain nothing. So what I will do is give each of these a flex value. So the left panel and the right panel. So I'll just give both of them a flex value of 1. Okay. So 1, the number doesn't really matter. What matters is the ratio between this panel and the other panel that's sharing the same flexed space. Now, since there's 1 here and there's 1 here, they'll share exactly equal the space. So this is what happens. 1 is this way, 1 is the other way. So even if I put 2 here, let's say I put 2, you see that the result is exactly the same because they're sharing the same amount. However, if I put 1 on this one, and let's say I put 4 on this one, if I come back here, this is what I will see. So there will be less space here. This one will take 4 times as much space as the other one, which is kind of what we want because we want a small version here and a larger div on the other side. Now I want this whole thing in the middle, so what I will do is go to the main wrapper and say margin. I'm going to put margin at auto. All right, so margin auto will move it in the center. There we go. Now let's create our header. Let's define our header styles. So here, pound header. So for the header as well, I want to put a background color of blue, just so I can see it, and then I will put a height of, let's say, 70 pixels. There we go. So we are kind of getting there. Now there's a header there, and then we need 2 more divs inside here. So those are the divs down here. So where are we? Okay, this is inner left panel. So I will do the same thing here, pound inner left panel. Background color, I'm running out of colors here. I'll say purple. And then also remember there's this container here which contains them, and this container needs to be a flex container. So instead of giving it a style there, I can still put a style directly here and just say display flex. I'm putting it up here because I'm putting it in here because it's just one style. It's better if you have many styles for an object, you put them at the top here. All right, so I'm going to say flex, how much of it to flex, and I will put a 1 to start with, and then we can put a different ratio for the next one. So I will duplicate this one and say right panel like this, purple. What other colors are we remaining with? Let's put pink on this one, and this one will probably be twice the other one in terms of ratio. Oops, so we don't have anything. That's because we haven't given each one of these a height. So I'll say minimum height. Now instead of, the reason I'm not just saying height is because I don't want to give it a fixed height. I want it to just know that the minimum height will be this one, and then if there's more content it will stretch downward, which is what I want. So minimum height in this case, the overall thing is 500 pixels, the whole wrapper. And then if we remove 500 pixels from, oh wait, actually minimum height here is 400, but let me put 500 on these guys. All right, now 500 minus 70, that's 430, is it? Yeah. All right, let's try min height here. 430 pixels. Let's try that. 430 pixels. Yep. And there we go. So as you can see, these are the segments we have here. If I check out this and then come back here, we have something that's kind of similar, but the width of the whole thing is a bit small. So what I will do is move it minimum width to 900. Let me try that, so we can try and match the other one. Okay, pretty cool. All right, so all these colors are doing very, very well. Now in here, let's put some text in the header. For example, let's go to the header and let me add some text in there, and the only text in there is my chat. All right, yeah, there we go, right there. Pretty awesome. All right, so let's do some styling now for this other segment. Now what we're going to do is, since we have a mockup here, we can simply copy the particular colors of this mockup. So let's begin. Let me right click on this particular image, right click and say inspect element. All right, so once I go to inspect element, if I click on body, the body of this particular thing, I will be presented with a color down here. So I want to click on that color thing. Now you can do this with any browser, of course. And when I click on the color here, I have a color picker here. So I'll click on the color picker so I can pick a color on the image itself. So I'll just select, like for example, this, let me try the header. So the header, I'm going to click on the header, boom. and then copy this resulting color, and then come back to my oops, I've opened up Internet Explorer for some reason. All right, let's go back here. So header, where is this? Right there. So background color, I'm simply going to replace the blue with that one. And of course I want the text in there to be white, but I think let me do this on the wrapper and say color white. So if I come back here and refresh, then we have this color, which is exactly that color there. So we are doing very well. And then let me come back here and change the rest of the colors. So I will go back to this one, color pick. I'm getting this one on this side for the left panel. So let me copy, go back here. Let's go to left panel, and that's the color, paste. And then I will choose another color for the inner left panel. There we go. So let's go to inner left panel and change that color. And then I'll come back to the right panel, the inner right panel. There we go. Copy that and come back here. There is inner right panel. There we go. And then container, of course, or left panel here should not have a background color at all. Oh, sorry, it's actually right panel that has green. Remove that, we don't need it. So let's go back here and refresh. And there we go. This is our new thing. But before we finish up, let's deal with the font in there. So if you look closely here, let me close this. You see that there's a font here which is kind of stylish. And so you can embed your fonts into your website by doing this. So let me come back here and show you something. So if I come back to the top here, but first of all, before we do that, let me go to the header and increase the font size. So I'm going to say font size. Why isn't it? Okay, there we go. Font size, let me try 40 pixels. I'm not really sure. And then let's say text align. Let's make it center. So let's see what that gives us. Let's come back here. So my chart and text align center. Okay, so now let's change the font to match this one. So in order to do this, if you notice here in our folder in the UI, we have fonts. So I have a font here and another font there. So now I want to use this one called Summer Vibes. So I'm going to press F2 to copy the file name. Now be sure to copy the file extension as well. That's very important. So this one is .otf, this one is .ttf. So you have to make sure that you have that as well. So let me copy this, and I know that it's in relation to the index page, it's inside UI, and then inside UI it's inside fonts. Okay, so remember that path. So I'm going to go at the top of the CSS and write something called at font face, like that, dash face. So we're creating our font here for use later. So I'm going to say font family, and I will give it any name that I want. So you can give it any name that you want. So we're just going to say head font, just like that. And then we're going to tell it the source of this particular font, and we'll say URL, open brackets, and we're going to paste the name. Now this is going to be a relative path, so we're going to say UI/fonts. This is the path of this one. And so now the font family will be head font. So let me go to the header itself in here, and I'm going to say the font family for this particular thing is this one. So let's see that in action. Let me refresh. And right there you see that now my font is matching this font right there. All right, so pretty good so far. And we can end here because the video has gone on long enough. Then we'll continue our styling in the next video.